Hello everybody and welcome back to Gaming on Caffeine. My name is Isaac and we are back playing some FTB Infinity for episode 51. And today what I want to work on is our power system, because over the last maybe 10 or 15 episodes, we've been actually having quite a few power issues when it comes to our big turbine, and most of them are coming from this guy over here, our high pressure boiler tank from Railcraft. And the reason is because as of right now, the only thing that is powering this high pressure boiler tank, and therefore the only thing that is powering our turbine, is the charcoal from our tree farm. And if we were to go ahead and take a quick look into our system at charcoal, you will see that we have none. Zero. We have no charcoal, which is not a good place to be. One reason is because if we go up here, we have no charcoal in its barrel, and the reason for that is because the tree cutter on the cart that we have has stopped working, which is not a very good thing to have, but that is something we could fix by doing this, and just chucking some diamonds into the woodcutter up here. And that's going to keep the problem, mitigated for a little while. But the main problem is that we're just not producing enough charcoal. And we could do a few things here. We could increase the size of our tree farm. We could make more tree farms. Or we could switch it up and stop using the steam boiler and instead use this guy over here, the big reactor. And that is exactly what we are going to do today. You may have noticed in the wall down here, we have a big gaping hole the size of a big reactor. And what I'm going to do in just a second is go ahead and move the big reactor from up on the surface down to here, because there is actually a mode that you can put the big reactors in that allows them to produce steam using the yellow light that they normally have. And then we can transfer that steam from the big reactor into the big turbine and have that power the big turbine instead, which is a lot better because we are actually getting quite a lot of yellorium as opposed to the charcoal that we're not really getting anywhere near as much of, and the yellorium also lasts a lot longer as well, which is pretty cool. So that's the plan. Before we get into that, I would like to make sure that we have everything ready for the turbine here. I've made most of the stuff already. We have the controller, the power tap, 2 fluid pods. We'll get to why we need 2 in just a second, as well as the rotor shafts, the rotor blade, and the glass. And the final thing that we're going to need to make this turbine here exactly the same as this turbine over here. If you can see right at the bottom there, we have those 2 layers of enderium blocks, which are very expensive indeed. Now, if we were to go ahead and look up the recipe for enderium, which I'm assuming by now, if you've watched to episode 51, you probably already know the recipe or the gist of the recipe for enderium, and it's pretty expensive. It requires, if we go over this way, we're going to use the Ender IO method, and to make it, we need 1 pyrotheum dust, 2 ender pearls, and 2 enderium base. The ender pearls are fairly easy. We have a mob spawner which has a ton of them. The pyrotheum dust is also fairly easy. Sulfur is something we have a lot of. Blaze powder, again, our mob spawner is taken care of. Redstone we have massive amounts of, and coal dust is really easy to get, especially now that our system knows how to make it. The hard part is getting this stuff over here, the enderium base, as it requires shiny ingots. However, thanks to our little bee friends over in this hut over here, we now have a ton of shiny metal ingots. If we go ahead and type in shiny, we have 874 shiny metal nuggets. I'm just going to go ahead and grab them all, throw them back into this AE system, which was really kind of pointless because we can access those shiny metal ingots from over here as well. But we're going to throw them in like this, and we're going to go and do something like this, and grab ourselves over 1.5 stacks of shiny metal ingots, which should be enough to actually get this thing up and running. So I'll take a stack of those, we'll take a stack of tin, and we'll also take a stack of silver. And I think that's what it requires to make enderium base, if I'm not mistaken. 2 tin, silver, and shiny metal. We will throw those in there. We also have some energetic alloys, and we will get onto why we have those a little bit later on down the line in this episode. One more thing I would like to mention, which is a bit off topic, but it's something I changed between this episode and last episode, is this guy down here. I switched out certus quartz in this barrel for cobblestone, and over in the mining age that we have, our little Mistcraft age over here, I switched it out so that cobblestone, instead of being thrown away into the trash can, is now being sent through and into our AE system via the interface behind this wall here. And basically what's happening now is all of the cobblestone is coming through into the AE system. The AE system is automatically sending it down to this barrel, and we have also installed a void upgrade on the barrel here, which means that any excess cobblestone that comes in will automatically just be destroyed, which basically means that we are going to have a constant supply of 20,000 cobblestone. And the reason I did this is because previously we were not able to make things like pistons because we had no cobblestone. All of it was being thrown away, which is a pretty bad idea, but that's just something I changed since since the end of last episode. Anyway, what I'm going to do now, guys, I'm going to go away. I'm going to tear down this big reactor over here, move all the liquid ender in there as well, and move the whole big reactor downstairs, stick it in that slot, and also wait until we have enough of this enderium base. Oh my gosh, this thing's pretty fast. Until we have enough enderium to actually make the turbine, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so a little while later, we have our big reactor now down here in our little power room, and what we have to do now, in order to change our big reactor from being a normal big reactor into being a big reactor that's going to produce steam for our big turbine, is add a fluid access pod, and we're going to run back upstairs. And if we look over here at big reactors, it is this guy over here. A reactor coolant pod is the official name, which I just completely said, but that's fine. We'll get ourselves a piston, and if we go ahead and do something like this, and then go down and replace the power tap with this coolant pod, because of course the big reactor is no longer going to be producing power, let's not get attacked by the enderium. And now, if you look in here, you'll see the interface is a bit different. There is no longer any section for redstone flux per tick, and instead we have the hot fluid output, the fuel burn-up rate, as well as the input and output for the hot fuel and the cold fluid tanks. So this is what we have down here, and basically what this is going to do now is we're going to insert water, which the big reactor is then going to turn into steam, and then output into this big turbine down here. So we do in fact need one more reactor coolant pot in order to actually pull the steam out of the big reactor after we put the water in, so we are going to need one more piston and at least 4 more reactor casing, which we do have. So we'll go ahead and grab you and stick that right about... For now, I'm going to put it here, although I might go ahead and rearrange some of these reactor parts just to make things look a little bit nicer and work a little bit better a little bit later on down the line. But for now, this is all we need. If we grab ourselves our crescent hammer, we can go ahead and do that to make that an output. We have 40 enderium here. I think we've got a little bit more in our alloy smelter. 32, not quite enough to actually make the 2 rings, but we could start by making just 1 ring of the stuff. And look at that, we have like just barely enough to make the first 8 to make 1 ring around the base of the reactor here. I went ahead and threw the shaft in already. Let's go ahead and do boom, 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 boom. Now again, we have 2 fluid pods for the big reactor. Of course, we're going to want to have one that brings the steam in from the big reactor over here, and then we're going to have another one that takes the water from the big turbine and sends it back into the big reactor. And the reason we're going to do this is to create an infinite loop of water to ensure that our reactor constantly has water. We don't have to constantly be pumping water into the big reactor. Because what's going to happen is if the water is heated up in the big reactor, turned into steam, goes into the turbine, it's then cooled down as the turbine spins, and then it's turned back into water, which we can then put back into the steam turbine. And basically all we're putting into this little formula here is yellorium, and as long as we keep enough yellorium in this big reactor, it should keep running pretty much indefinitely, is the idea. So we'll go ahead and throw these back together. You'll see in a second why I didn't put the fluid pots next to each other, and that's because the pipes that we're going to put down, we don't want them to intersect, because we want fluids of water going one way and steam going the other, and we're going to set that up right about now. So the first thing we're going to need to do is get water into our big reactor. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to start by making a drum. The drum is a little storage unit from extra utilities, sorry, not big reactors, and it's fairly easy to make. It's a bit expensive as storage units go. It requires quite a bit of iron, so if you're trying to make this in the early game, it's a little bit more expensive. I really didn't mean to make a second cauldron there, but we can go ahead and do something like this. Grab ourselves 2 weighted pressure plates and get ourselves a drum, and this basically stores up to 256 buckets of any fluid you like. For now, we're going to go ahead and stick that right about there. And again, you'll see why I've put it there of all places in just a second. And for the time being, our wither spawn is not working at the minute, by the way, because we ran out of soul sand. We do have 55 nether stars, though, which is pretty cool. And just to get this thing up and running, we're going to go ahead and take this, which is in there. And oh, no! Oh, I got it. Whew, I thought... If that hadn't have worked, it would have gone ahead and binned that. So we have to be careful about that guy over there. But for now, we'll go ahead and do this. Stick that down there. And then I think we should be able to pull some of that out. Now, the conduits that we're going to use are not the thermodynamics conduits that we've been using up until now, the fluid ducts from thermodynamics. We're instead going to use the fluid conduits from Ender.io. And the reason, not the fluid, the reason we're going to use the fluid conduits from Ender.io, these ones over here, the Ender fluid conduits, is because they have the highest throughput, maximum extract rate of any fluid conduit, I believe, in the mod pack that we have. So maximum extraction rate is 200 millibuckets per tick, and that will come in very important later on down the line. So For this, we're going to need some conduit binder, some vibrant alloy, which is made in the alloy smelter using some energetic alloys and some ender pearls, which is exactly why we have those energetic alloys that I mentioned earlier. We'll go ahead and throw those in there. I don't quite think we have everything it takes to make conduit binder, but we do, so I'll go ahead and take that and smelt that up somewhere. We could use the electric furnace, but I think the alloy smelter actually gives you more, if I'm not mistaken, so we'll wait for this first one to go through. We don't need that many fluid conduits, so we're probably only going to need one vibrant alloy, like so. We'll then go ahead and throw in the binder composite. That should be enough. We need to stop this thing from working. We'll then go ahead and throw in the binder composite. 8 should be more than enough for the time being. And once we've got that, we do also need some quartz glass, which I don't know if we have. We don't, so we're also going to have to go ahead and grab 8 quartz. And throw that in here as well. And that should go ahead and get us some quartz glass. It shouldn't take too long. This stuff should be fairly easy to make. We should also go ahead and upgrade this to an octadic capacitor to make this thing run even faster. But again, we'll worry about that a little bit later on down the line. That does also require some vibrant alloys. So, you can go in there, and you. Boom, boom. End of fluid conduits. Nice. So, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start by pulling the water out of this tank and into the drum, like so. And we'll do that. We'll say to extract. We'll ignore redstone. That should start to fill that up fairly quickly. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to set this one to insert. So we have the water go into this fluid port, which is right-click on it to change it. Have this one set to extract, like that. We're going to have the steam come out of there. And we're probably going to have it come out of there, go along and into here. And then have the water come out of there, back up and into the drum. And it should, once we've got it kickstarted, once we've got like just a little bit of water in this drum, 32,000 should probably be enough. We should be able to get this process kickstarted, and it should eventually be self-sustaining. We shouldn't have to pump any more water in. Now, these are all limited to 200 millibuckets per tick. And if we were to go ahead and do something like this, and then set this to extract, ignore redstone, and we were to turn this on, like so, after we put yellorium in it. The yellorium is key. If you don't put the yellorium in, it will not work. Put some yellorium in the same way we usually would. You'll see that it's producing, when it cools down, 400 millibuckets per tick, 407. So once we've got our big reactor producing a 407 millibuckets per tick of steam, we can then go ahead and start to pull the steam out and insert it into this guy over here. Like so. We need to change that around because that's set to extract, insert, output. And that should now, if we set this to extract, like so, start to pull that out, and it's producing 800 millibuckets per tick of steam, which is more than enough to power this thing down here. If we go ahead and click activate turbine, we're going to go ahead and disengage coils for a while, because while the coils are disengaged, as you can see here, the RPM goes up faster, but we don't get any power. But once it gets to 900, we'll go ahead and stop it. Now it's down to 200 millibuckets per tick, which is actually where I thought it would lie. So, in order to get it up from 200, because in order to run this reactor at the peak 900 RPM, we need about 435-ish millibuckets per tick. What we're going to have to do is add some more millibuckets, have some more millibuckets per tick coming into this thing. As you can see right now, this thing's empty. We do need to set it up so that the pipes do come back, which is going to require us to make a few more of these fluid conduits, which we should be able to do fairly easily. If we'd have enough of the metals, we'll go ahead and throw some more of you and you in there. Flipping cats are back again. That doesn't surprise me. They're all over the place. If we do something like this and hook it back up to the drum like so, and I might go ahead and I probably will go ahead and try and make this look a little bit better later on down the line. But for now, I just want it to work. And if we do this and set this to extract, it should start to pump water back into the drum and send it straight back through into the big reactor and keep it at around 200 millibuckets per tick, which, as I just said, isn't really enough. Now, to increase that from 200 to about 400, we can go ahead and add another pull out here. And the reason why we have to add another one, if we go ahead and set that to extract and turn it off, let's just check that worked. It did. It bumped that up to 400 millibuckets per tick. And the reason why that worked is because if we look at the conduits here, the maximum extraction rate is 200 millibuckets per tick, but the maximum in and out, that IO rate, is 800 millibuckets per tick. So each of the outputs here, each of the ones pulling out of the drum, can only pull 200, but the actual fluid conduits can carry up to 800 and insert up to 800 into the reactor at once. And as I said, we need about 435, so we are in fact going to need one more. Thankfully, we no longer need the help of this guy up here, so we can go ahead and just do that and also set this to extract again. turn it off. We should now be up to about 600, and then we're going to go in here. We're going to lower this down using these little arrows over here. You can use shift to go down by 10, control to go down by 100, and control shift to go down by 1,000. We're going to go down to 334. And I think that's about as much as we need. But they're going to engage the coils. You can see we were producing a ton of power there. That's because it's about 4,000 RPM. We only need it at about 900 RPM. You can already see we're back up at like full energy in our buffer here. Do we have any redstone conduits? Because we could kind of use all that power in our system. We don't, but we should be able to get that fairly easily. Do we have any in here? I have some of the conduits, but not any of the redstone. That's fine. That's a problem that's easily fixed. We'll throw you down. We'll grab some more redstone, and we'll top this guy up. That should automatically output to there. Yep, good stuff, good stuff. 4 conduits might actually be enough. I did make sure to stick the power tap on the right side there. So I think 4 conduits is actually the perfect amount to get that thing up and running. So let's go ahead and just grab you and throw that on there. Set it to output. That should start to fill all those up. I think we should have enough redstone there. We do. Thank you very much. And then if we throw these down next to our turbine, 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we are getting 10,000 redstone flux per tick coming into our system. This thing is not getting 5,000 redstone flux per tick because we don't have all of the enderium yet, but we can get that stuff back up and running by throwing in the enderium base, the pyrotheum dust, and some of the ender pearls. We can get those back up and running, and we definitely have enough enderium base and shiny metal to get up to that double layer coil. We'll probably be producing about half as much before then. We're at 84.6% efficiency with 8 out of 13 blades being used. Now, I did some testing in a single player world, and I thought 8 was the number that we actually needed. I'm going to turn this one off as well here. Now, how many do we have in this one? I don't think this one's as efficient. I think I have too many in here. We have 4, 8, 12, 16 in this one. I think 12 might be the sweet spot. So I'm going to go ahead and take away 4 from here. We'll see how that affects the power of this reactor, and we'll also see how it affects the power of the other reactor. Let's go ahead and just re-engage those coils, and then we'll head into this one and stick 4 more down. Hopefully that will increase the amount of power this one produces, I think. And we'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And again, if we go ahead and re-engage this one, and again, we'll disengage the coils to get that RPM back up pretty quickly. This has more than enough water, as you can see over here. And we can go ahead and stick this guy back down on the killer Joe in the vat, if we can ever break it, because it takes forever to break things while you're flying. There we go. Okay, we can put that back down onto our vat like so. That's going to continue with that thing working over there. This thing has more than enough water, like we said. It's only outputting 340. It's getting a ton back. This thing should be completely self-sufficient. If we go ahead and disengage the coils just as it passes 900, it should, if we go ahead and re-engage the coils, sorry, it should go, it's actually still going up, which is not really what we want. We want it at about 900 or 1800. I don't think we could actually... I don't know. We might be able to feasibly get it up to about 1800. I can't say I've really tried. Let's try. Let's bump that back up. Let's like bump that up to 1,000. And let's see if we disengage the coils and allow that to build back up to 1800. If we allow it to access the full 600 millibuckets per tick that big reactor is putting out, can we get it up to 1800? Okay, we're at 1800. The number is still going up, which is crazy. Let's, oh, I don't want to do that. I want to bump that back up to about 600. And let's limit it, because we don't want it going over 600. If we go ahead and press O there, get rid of any I. Rotors kept overspeed for too long may fail catastrophically. We don't want them going over 1800. So I want to limit this quite drastically. So if it goes too far over 1800, it can fail, and I believe it can explode, which is definitely not something that I want to happen. So we are going to lower that pretty drastically. It looks like we actually don't need all that much, and we might possibly be even to be able to run 2 of these big reactors, 2 of these big turbines off 1 big reactor. If not, my plan is to go ahead and put another big reactor in over here to get this one up and running. This one is actually dead because we're out of stuff over there. Before now, every time I'd come onto an episode, I'd go ahead and fill it up with like blaze rods just to keep the thing running and to keep our power on. But I don't want to have to keep topping stuff up every like 5 minutes. So for now, this should be what keeps us up and running. Let's try and balance this. We want to try and get it so it stays at about exactly 1800. It's still going down, so we're going to bump it up a little bit more. I kind of go up in 10s, and then maybe down by 1 or 2 if it's, like, not exactly where I want it. And basically, once we add our second layer of enderium, I think this will actually double the amount of power, and I think it will be up to about 10,000 hour per tick, because this guy was producing 5,900, and if we add the second layer over here, that should be exactly the same, and I think we'll also be producing the exact same amount. Here we'll go down by about 1 at a time, try about 538, 34? I think 1,803.8 RPM is probably safe. I think it's only if you kind of get, like, close to that 1,900, 2,000 that it gets to, like, the catastrophic level. So I think for now, this should be fine in terms of power. And it is producing a nice constant 5,000 hours per tick, which is completely self-sufficient, apart from the fact that we do need to keep Yellorium in here. You'll see it's using very, very small amounts of Yellorium. Tiny amounts, in fact. And you'll notice I did also go ahead and move the ME conduits under the ground here to make the room look a little bit nicer. Kind of ruined the niceness of the room with this thing over here, but again, if we go ahead and get ourselves some ME glass fiber cable and get ourselves another export bus, we can keep this guy over here filled up. Do we have an export bus? Probably not after last episode where we made like 50 of them. We can go ahead and make another export bus real quick, and then we should be able to keep that big reactor filled up at all times. We are going to need another formation core. I'm guessing that we don't have any stuffs, which we don't. Let's throw you in there. My gosh, where are the cats? Oh, they're so annoying. They are so annoying. They meow all the time. If they made no noise, they'd be less annoying. But they are here every time I log on. Like, I'll go away, I'll come back on the next day, and there'll be like 50 of them just roaming around. It's ridiculous. Did that go back into the system? I think it did. Let's do that, and then get ourselves a piston, make ourselves another export bus, grab ourselves some Yellorium. And if we go ahead and set it to export, it should be pretty much good to go. Now, another thing we do have to worry about as well is the cyanide that gets backed up in here. Let's just quickly set that to Yellorium. If we look in here, we are getting an export of cyanide, which is something we do have to worry about. So, we're going to have to go ahead and grab another access port to pull that cyanide out, because I believe if we don't pull the cyanide out, we can't actually put any more Yellorium in, which means we're gonna the reactor's going to stop. And the whole idea of what we're doing here is to stop the reactor from ever stopping. So, access port. We should be able to go ahead and make one of those, I think, fairly easily. There we go. I'm not quite sure how many... Oh, we have 2 big reactor casing left. Okay. I was just about to say, I'm not quite sure how many reactor casing we have left in total. But let's go ahead and get rid of you. And just stick that guy right about there. This one is going to be set to export, like that one. I'll right-click with the wrench one more time. And then if we go ahead and grab ourselves an import bus, hopefully we have enough 80 channels down there. We are using a lot on that one line. But if we grab an import bus, which is again made with another one of these, which again means we're going to have to go ahead and do this, which shouldn't really take too long. This thing should be on full power and doing fairly well. Thank you. We'll throw you in there and get ourselves one of these, but we first, of course, need another piston, and we should, like, have a constant supply of pistons, like, just ready, on hand, for whenever we need them. Combine that with some rubber, and we get ourselves an import bus. We can then go ahead and stick that on the output, and that should go ahead and pull out all of the cyanide, I think. If I set it to pull out cyanide. Like that. Import cyanide. I believe that should work. Possibly. And we want to get rid of these. I don't want these connecting up here. We'll just set that to disabled and disabled. I don't think it's really going to matter. These still are not working. Nothing's working. Is the AE system off? It is. I was going to say why, but the reason why is because the big reactor is off. We turn this guy back on. It gets back up to that 600 millibuckets per tick. This thing should start to speed up again. And once I get there, we go. Okay, now the system should come back on. And then we're going to see if we have enough channels for all this. I'm not quite sure if we do. Of course, we can go ahead and turn this one off over here. That will be fine. What I might also do, instead of making a second reactor, is just make like one big long reactor to power both of these. I think that would also work and would also save on AE channels because we don't need these two here as opposed to all of them. But it looks like everything over here is working fine. I can't tell if these ones are working fine. We'll do a quick check back here to see if all of these ones... That one is not. And neither is that one. So we have gone ahead and used up those two there to replace these two over here. So, what I might go ahead and do between episodes is replace all of these cables, these ones that are kind of in the floor here, with dense cables so we can carry up to 32 channels as opposed to just 8 and get these two back over here online, as well as having a lot of breathing room to add some extra stuff. So... what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm going to turn that down. Jesus flipping heck. Not all the way. That would be a terrible idea. I'm going to turn that down because, wow, we are using a lot of... 2,000 is too high. Like, oh no, sorry, that's 2,000. Okay. Whew! I got... I thought it was the speed, that it's not. We'll leave that at 2,035 where it was before. I think that should be fine. I'm going to go away. I'm going to try and clean this up. I'm going to try and make it look a bit better. I'm going to try and get both of these reactors self-sufficient. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so a really long time later, and it would seem that I failed in my attempt to make this room look better, but... at least it's symmetrical. I managed to make it as symmetrical as possible. I do need to move this Tesseract to the center if I want it to be completely symmetrical, but it works. And if we look into this one over here, we now have a turbine that's running at 1,800 RPM, getting 5,078 redstone flux per tick, is fully self-sufficient. This thing is just producing 435 millibuckets of steam, constantly being sent around and pulled out and sent around and pulled out over and over and over again. This is all set up. I did try one long reactor, and I struggled to get it to work, but seemingly splitting it up into 2 reactors works a little bit nicer. That is going to mean that we're going to use a few more of these AE channels to get both the import and export of the yellorium and cyanide in and out of the reactor, but this one is also working. This one's using a little bit more, 540 millibuckets per tick. And my theory that double the enderium blocks at the base would actually impact the RF at all seems to be completely wrong. This one is running at half the speed but getting twice as much RF, but I can't seem to get it to go up like to 1,800 without like massively increasing the amount of millibuckets per tick we give out. So it would seem that really the better solution would be to use this one, which is just one ring of enderium, which is a lot cheaper, by the way. I might go ahead and dismantle like the one of the rings down there just to get the enderium back that we can use for like tesseracts or something. But that one seems to be a lot better. It's using less steam and it's producing, I think, a slightly less power, like by about 20 redstone flux per tick. But we are now producing 10,000 redstone flux per tick. And for those who don't know, in Minecraft runs at 20 ticks per second, which means we're producing about 200,000 redstone flux a second. 200,000 redstone flux a second. We are producing a lot of redstone flux. It is fully automated. As long as the quarry keeps running and as long as these big reactors keep getting these yellorium, we should be fine. It should just keep going forever and ever and ever, which is absolutely fantastic, and everything should be good. And we should not have to worry really about power for quite some time to come. But for now, thanks for watching. I'm going to end the episode here. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to hit like, and I will see you guys next time.